I've been watching the storm, I've been feeling the weight of the world on our doorstep, of the hands of fate. And I'm standing here ready to shoulder the load, to be the compass that points us down this open road. I'm asking for the wheel, I'm asking for your hand, to let me be the one who takes a final stand. So give me the lead, let me be your cover, more than just a partner, more than just a lover. I'm asking you to trust the vision that I see, to yield your heart and find your rest in me. Just follow my steps, let your worries subside, and let me be the strength that's standing by your side.
I hear the words you're saying, they sound steady and deep, but there's a promise in your eyes you haven't quite kept. You wanna be the head, you wanna be the guide, but there's a missing piece you're trying to hide. You're asking me to bow to the man that you are, but you're steering this ship by a fading star. How can I follow where you're gonna go when you're running a race that you don't even know? You're asking for a crown you haven't earned yet, demanding a tribute while you're deep in debt. How can you ask me to bend my knee to you when you won't bow your head to the one who is true?
Look, I was talking about the throne, but I forgot about the floor. Tryna lock the windows while I left the open door. I wanted all the yes, but I wasn't giving God the amen. Building up my pride, trying to be the greatest of the men. But you called it out, you saw the cracks inside the frame. How can I leave the house if I'm running from the name? I'm putting down the crown, I'm picking up the cross, 'cause leading without him is just leading us to loss.
Yeah, we were fighting for the wheel while the car was standing still.
Now we're moving on His grace and we're moving in His will. So we'll both take a knee, we'll both let it go. There's a higher authority we both need to know. I'll submit to the love that you show from above, and I'll lead by the grace of the Father's own love. No more me or you standing first in the line. We're both coming home to a design that's divine. Yeah, we gotta get it right.
You gotta get it right.
Starting with him tonight.
Night and night and night.
No more tricks, no more pride. Just the truth on our side.
Just give me like 4 or 5 minutes. But let me go ahead and just get this out of the way. All right. So sometimes, you don't know why things come to you. I just happened to be looking at the internet yesterday, and this video came up, and I was like, I wanted to do something this weekend dealing with, due to the fact we was on Ramadan. I wanted to do something, go back into time and pull up some of the Minister Farrakhan. Then this other video came up and it kind of like put it together. So what I did was like, these two videos would go together. And so that's what I want to do. Just give me about 3 more minutes and we get into both of these videos. And I think if you're still around, please pass this around, give a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you like. But I think when I play both of these videos together, you'll quite understand some things that's going on, especially in our community.
That you don't even know. You're asking for a crown you
talking about the throne, yeah, but I forgot about the floor. Tryna lock the windows while I left the open door. I wanted all the yes, but I wasn't giving God the amen. Building up my pride, trying to be the greatest of the men. But you called it out, you saw the cracks inside the frame. How can I leave the house if I'm running from the name? I'm putting down the crown, I'm picking up the cross. Cause leading without him is just leading us to lost.
Yeah, we were fighting for the wheel while the car was standing still.
Now we're moving on his grace and we're moving in his will. So we'll both take a knee, we'll both let it go. There's a higher authority we both need to know. I'll submit to the love that you show from above, and I'll lead by the grace of the Father's own love. No more me or you standing first in the line. We're both coming home to a design that's divine.
Yeah, we gotta get it right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Starting with him tonight.
Night and night and night.
No more tricks, no more pride. Just the truth on our side.
This goes out to my brother OG. G, speed the crossing. Started in the dust of a distant sun. Before the change, before the run.
The drums were calling across the deep. I promised that our souls
About 2 more
meant
minutes
to
in the
keep.
show.
But the ocean grew wide and the sky turned gray. They took the names, but not the way. We hum the songs in the dark of the night, turning the sorrow into the light. It's the rhythm of the ages, the blood in the soil, the beauty born out of the struggle and toil. From the cotton fields to the stars above, a history written in a resilient love. Oh, we're still standing, we're still here, echoing loud so the world can hear. I walked the miles in the Birmingham rain. Ooh, I felt the fire, I felt the pain, but I saw a future in a young man's eyes, where the truth was louder than the silver lies. I was there on the bus, there on the bus, there on the stage, there on the stage. We were turning the leaf on a heavy page, from the great migration to the city lights. Oh, we claimed our place and we claimed our rights. How this do works. Oh, the male voice represents the grounding force, the base and the foundational strength, the spirit, the soaring hope and emotional love. The jewel isn't a fight, it's a build up as the song progresses. They should start overlapping their lines. Ad-libbing over each other to show how intertwined this history is. Would you like me to write a bridge where the voices battle or harmonize even more intensely? Or should we focus on a specific era for verse 3?
So we're gonna start the show right about now, and just like I say, I got these 2 videos I put together. One is gonna be a great surprise to you. All the videos, original content is in the description, where you can go into the people channel that I pulled this down from. You know, I really don't want to talk about things that I've been talking about for the last 15 years on these channels that I go and visit. So I'm going to take a seat back and just work on my own content because I just don't want to rehash the same thing over and over and over and seem like it's the same conversation over and over and over. So I just want to bring you new perspectives and maybe we can pass information on. Okay, so just like I say, I'm going to start off with the first video and you'll see where I'm going with this, okay? All right?
I'm going to start with the premise, an axiom really, that all social relations are power relations. And if that's the case, and it is, then let's explore the difficulties in navigating those waters through Ryan Coogler's Sinners. Ryan Coogler's 2025 vampire thriller Sinners didn't just knock the horror genre out of its box office doldrums, it delivered a thought-provoking and nuanced exploration of oppression. Set in a Mississippi juke joint under siege by a gang of vampires, the film may not break new ground in horror narratives, but its thematic depth is what sets it apart from the usual popcorn monster flick.
Being kind to one another. And being polite. Now we is one people.
Coogler uses vampirism as a metaphor for white colonialism and cultural appropriation, even as he implicitly acknowledges the complicated histories of the film's antagonists. In fact, every major character embodies a different method of grappling with white supremacy, and how these characters find leaving that legacy behind is easier said than done. And it reveals how those strategies are fraught with moral and emotional peril, and can often feel wrong to the people around you who chose a different strategy. As Coogler himself told Degrading, if you point a finger at someone and call them a sitter, you'd also have to point the finger back at yourself. This video contains spoilers, so consider watching the film first before you continue. And if you like what you see, click the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to click the little bell to be notified for new videos. Before we begin, a quick note on methodology. For reasons that should be obvious, I am not fully qualified to give an experiential view on the impression of people of color. For some more nuanced takes from an experiential perspective, check out the links in the description. In Sinners, blues serves as a stand-in for black culture. Ryan Coogler was adamant that the blues play a central role in the film, noting that it was the music of pain, trauma, and oppression, but also of cultural healing.
For me, the movie had to be about blues music. And blues music is like a very specifically the Delta blues music, it's a very specific type of folk music. When you look at music having a healing quality, there's a reason why people who've suffered the most tend to have some of the most powerful music.
The casting of beat poet Saul Williams, guitar prodigy Eric Gates, and blues legend Buddy Guy serve to make good on Coogler's vision. If the blues is black culture, and the blues done right is a celebration of black culture, then the film shows us that celebrations of black culture will always attract those who wish to exploit blackness for their own game, or annihilate it altogether.
I want you to swear to me and before this congregation to leave those sinning ways where they lie.
As the character Annie tells us in the opening voiceover, some musicians sing so true that they can unite people across time and space, future and past, life and death. The film's central thesis then becomes a question. In a world steeped in white supremacy, how does one preserve their culture without falling into exploitation? The characters and sitters are only able to move laterally. Every action that they take meets them in the same moral and psychological trap. This is how oppressive social structures maintain their power and create a sense of despair. In Sitters, it's literally damned if you do, damned if you don't. Take the characters of Elijah and Elias Moore, better known as Smoke and Stack to their friends and enemies. Smoke and Stack are repatriates to the Mississippi Delta after years as World War I veterans and runners for Al Capone in Chicago. Their goal is to use their Chicago money to start a juke joint for the people of color in the Delta so that they can escape the imposed white supremacist culture they live with every day.
I've been working all week, Pop. I want to be free of all this for a day.
Coogler has stated that the twin characters were inspired by the Abeji, twin deities at West African Yoruban Moor. The Abeji appear in many stories, representing protection and guidance, especially in times of struggle. But their presence also denotes an oncoming strife, so they are often viewed with a wariness. On the surface, Smoke and Stack seem to be doing things altruistically. They use their Chicago money to buy an old sawmill from an inveterate racist named Hogwood, thus reclaiming a patch of land their ancestors worked on.
More time I spend with y'all, the less sure I am you boys are serious about it.
Now, please listen to this and try to understand it. And some of the names it is using, you can go and research yourself. Just try to listen to this with logic.
Ain't no boys here. I just grown men. With grown men money and grown men bullets.
Their plan is to vertically integrate the juke joint with reliable people from the Delta.
Why you here, Smoke?
We was hoping to serve food at the juke tonight. We want you to cook for us.
Every set they make is so they won't have to rely on the tainted influences of the KKK or any of the other structures that oppress them. This strategy is what cultural communication scholar Mark Orby calls aggressive separation. Orby contends that there are individuals who belong to dominant cultures in a society, cultures that control government, economics, language, education, taste, and other major facets of life in a given nation. Alongside that dominant culture live groups of people who don't belong to the dominant culture, and therefore don't have that level of power. These are called co-cultures. They occupy the same social space, but their values are not treated as important. Their struggles are not treated as real, and their lives are not treated as valuable. Sometimes this split is an intentional act, as Hogwood's actions late in this film are. But sometimes that chasm between dominant culture and co-culture forms naturally, as a result of the dominant group focusing solely on their own problems at the expense of thinking of others. And unequal social structures that run several layers deep are what make the roots of Jim Crow long and invasive, and they infested the juke joint long before the white villains even arrived on the scene. Because of the power imbalance, Orby notes, people in co-cultures have to strategize their communication in ways that people in the dominant culture don't. And according to Orby's theory, the person in the co-culture can seek one of three preferred outcomes. Assimilation, in which the goal is to fit in with the dominant culture and downplay the differences between cultures. Accommodation, where the goal is to influence the dominant culture to create a more inclusive space for both cultures. And separation, in which the goal is to maintain a distinct cultural identity that minimizes interaction with the dominant group and prioritizes connection with others in the co-culture. Not surprisingly, Smoke is adopting aggressive separation strategies throughout most of the film. This pressure to adjust is usually relieved when the individual is alone with members of their own culture. This is what Smoke and Stack are trying to create, a space where people of a co-culture can be their free, authentic selves. The problem with that philosophy, though, is that it's cynical and transactional. For Smoke more than Stack. Stack sells Smoke on an ideal of a free, autonomous business, but the mill they buy is already stained with the blood of black labor.
Y'all wash these floors?
Yeah.
What was on them?
The twins recruit their cousin, preacher boy Sammy Moore, to be the featured musical act. Sammy will find is the keystone of the whole story, and his power to unify people becomes a commodity the twins can sell.
We gonna make some money. We gonna make some money.
And therein lies a moral flaw for Smoke and Stack. They're not opening the juke joint for the culture. They're opening it for profit. This is especially true for Smoke, who objects when Annie and Stack accept script nickels from a sharecropper for a drink.
This ain't no house party, and it damn sure ain't no charity. We taking cash, US motherfucking dollars.
The Stack says that customers should feel like the place is for them to keep them coming back. But Smoke's outlook, the juke joint becomes less of a cultural reprieve and more of the theme park, the Delta Disneyland. The script money problem also reveals how difficult it was to run black-owned businesses in the post-Bellin South.
We underwater.
How?
All the plantations down there paying with credits.
For most black Americans in the Jim Crow South, real money was a rarity. Scrip, for those who don't know, was an alternative form of currency paid by companies in lieu of actual money. It was a form of debt peonage. By 1920, over 1 million black farmers had lost their jobs in the South, while millions more moved to northern cities in the Great Migration. Those who remained were often trapped in an exploitative system. In 1910, for example, less than 16,000 farms in Georgia were operated by black owners, while over 106,000 were worked by black tenants and sharecroppers. Because they were paid in scrip, which could only be used at the company stores, they were in a state of perpetual debt. This system had been a reality for many since the postbellum period, with around 75% of black people in the South working as sharecroppers or tenants by 1880. For all intents and purposes, companies had reinstituted slavery. One of the few exceptions is a town Smoke tells Sammy about, Mound Bayou, an autonomous black-owned town founded by former slaves in the Delta to be exactly what the juke joint was supposed to be, a haven from the wicked hand of Jim Crow. Mound Bayou was a booming town in the early half of the 20th century. The founders of the town put out a call to all young black men of entrepreneurial spirit, which led to the town being an attractive draw to a vibrant population, much like Austin, Boulder, and probably most famously Silicon Valley. Smoke says that he and Stack were chased out of the town by the mayor on account of their father's reputation, so even the haven wouldn't have them. With no solace in Mound Bayou, Chicago being fool's gold, and the rest of the Delta being controlled by the Klan, the juke joint is all that is left for the twins. This is what leads Stack to send Mary out to find Remick and see if his boasts about having real money are true. It shouldn't be lost on the viewer that Stack is going back in the Mound Bayou model of black autonomy and sending a white passing woman out to a trio of white people to rescue the black-owned establishment with their money, and that's what causes the downfall. Of the two brothers, Stack is the idealist. He conceives of a better life and has no morals about how he's going to make that happen, and he embraces culture as something that is lived, not something that is owned. That's why he enjoys Rennick's rendition of Pick Poor Robin Clean and Sammy's Showstopper, while Smoke is more suspicious of both. And it's why he shows up in 1992 wearing Biggie's kooky sweater, Wesley Snipes' sunglasses, and Bobby Brown's high-top fade. For Stack, the culture isn't culture unless it's culturate. Smoke, on the other hand, is a moral absolutist, who is quick to use violence to enforce his black and white worldview. It's no surprise, then, when Stack winds up in an in-between world, young and pretty forever but without the soul to enjoy it, while Smoke has to burn everything to the ground before he can find peace. Perhaps no character evokes as many complex emotions as Stack's paramour Mary, a biracial woman whose whiteness was a survival tool forced upon her. If Smoke and Stack represent aggressive separation from white culture, then Mary embodies a form of non-assertive assimilation. The very concept of passing requires adopting the look, manner, and language of the dominant culture. While we rarely see her interacting with white people, the film implies that she's not only surviving, but thriving in her new white passing life. The problem, however, is that Mary wasn't raised white, and that's not her avowed identity. She assimilated as a survival strategy, not out of shame for her heritage. To make matters worse, this was a decision that was forced on her by Stack, as she reveals in this heartbreaking exchange.
Got you a rich white husband. Got you a farm. Now go home to it.
Oh, that shit was your idea. I didn't want no white man. I didn't want to be white. I wanted to be with you.
In fact, it's at least implied that Stack sold Mary, as he was pimping in Little Rock, and that's also where Mary settled down with the husband Stack arranged for her. In this way, her communication is never truly her own. She is constantly performing for a dominant audience, which makes genuine connection and authentic self-expression nearly impossible. Her story is a horror about the fundamental disconnect between a person's inner truth and the external oppressive forces that seek to define it. Caught between two races and two cultures, Mary exists in a liminal or in-between state. This makes her a figure of suspicion, the threat to the social order, because she doesn't fit neatly into any category. She is a walking contradiction, and as the film demonstrates, that liminality endangers everyone around her. And yet she does benefit from that perceived whiteness, and acts as though her personal identity as a black woman somehow erases those benefits. Instead, her choices reinforce white supremacy rather than challenging it, a form of internalized oppression where she becomes complicit in her own psychological subjugation.
My mama's daddy was half black. He raised her to keep the Klan from killing her.
The moral and psychological torment that Mary experiences stems from the chasm between her chosen identity and the identities that are assigned to her by the different world she inhabits. She is in a constant state of cognitive dissonance, forced to deny a part of herself for survival, while simultaneously being defined by others in ways that conflict with who she truly is. When she first approaches Stack at the train station, she does so with no care about the danger to both of them. The mere act of addressing him could get him killed if the wrong person saw it. Later, she shows up at the juke joint, despite being explicitly warned that her presence endangers everyone there.
All it takes is the wrong person in here to see you, word get back to them crackers, and they're gonna try to kill you.
And in fact, it is her choice that leads to the juke joint's downfall. It is Mary who chooses to use her whiteness to seek out Remick.
They'll tell me more than they'll tell you.
And it's her vulnerability that Remick exploits, saying,
"You're in some deep, deep pain that money can't fix."
While Mary explains that her sadness is about her mother dying, it's clear her sadness is also existential. Her mother's death is the last tie to her blackness being wiped away, leaving her with the identity she never asked for. Like Mary, Bo and Grace Chow belong neither fully to the white nor the black world. Yet unlike Mary, their position allows them a unique, albeit precarious, navigation of both. The Chows are a prime example of what sociologists call a middleman minority. This theory describes ethnic groups who occupy an intermediate position in the social hierarchy, often serving as economic and cultural intermediaries between the dominant group and subordinate cultural groups. In the Chow's case, this is epitomized by their general store, which Smoke visits to buy catfish and signage for the juke joint's grand opening. More than almost any other characters, the Chows embody a distinct cultural history. Most Chinese immigrants arrived in the Mississippi Delta post-Civil War, primarily to work on plantations as an alternative labor source to newly freed Black Americans. However, they quickly discovered, much like the freedmen and their descendants, that there was very little profit in agricultural labor. Many found themselves going in the other direction financially. This bleak reality led a significant number of Chinese immigrants to pivot to the grocery store business. By 1910, Chinese families owned over 200 grocery stores in the Mississippi Delta, becoming a crucial outlet for Black customers since many white-owned stores enforced strict segregation. The Chinese immigrant, of course, was still oppressed. They were considered non-white and often lacked full legal protections under Jim Crow. Witness the long wonder as Lisa Chow walks across the street and relieves Grace at the white store so that she can come to the black side of the street to talk to Smoke. This is one of the many subtleties of the film because it acknowledges that Bo Chow would have risked lynching himself by approaching white women on the street. Like Black men, Asian men were stereotyped as insatiable sexual predators of white women, a belief that triggered the Watsonville riots just 2 years prior to the year that Sinners takes place. This meant that Bo was largely restricted to working on the black side of the street. Chinese immigrants' ambiguous racial status meant they sometimes faced segregation alongside Black Americans, while at other times they were granted privileges closer to white residents. However, overt social equality was often not their primary goal at the time, as their intent was to amass wealth in America and eventually return home to China with greater social and economic status. This unique societal position allowed many Chinese immigrants to send for family members, train them in the grocery business, and help them establish their own stores as they gained financial stability. Because the Chinese population in the Delta remained relatively small and dispersed, they never developed the same kind of distinct cultural solidarity seen in large urban centers. There is, for instance, no Chinatown in Rosedale comparable to those in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago. Instead, many Delta Chinese immigrants adopted aspects of the white culture around them, explaining the presence of names like Bo, Grace, and Lisa in centers. Most Chinese immigrants developed a pragmatic, almost agnostic view of race relations when it came to existing biracial tensions in the Delta. In doing so, they wound up tacitly complicit in the system. As the sole outlet for trade for many Black residents, they inevitably siphoned money out of the Black community and back to China, even if it was without malicious intent. They were, quite literally, minding their own business within a system designed for inequality. In the film, Grace is a stand-in for this complicated position, ultimately prioritizing her own family's immediate safety, or at least her perception of it, above the collective well-being by inviting vampires into the juke joint for a fight. Much like Mary, due to her acceptance within white society, Grace doesn't approach decisions with the same caution as the Black residents of the Delta, who must do so in order to survive. This shows that there doesn't need to be any feelings of hatred or racial superiority. Often the mere presence and attitude of outsiders are enough to get people hurt. Perhaps no character sparks more debate in Sinners than Remick, a figure whose complexity transcends simple villainy. A lesser film would have presented the Klan and vampires as flat but ambiguous evils. Instead, Coogler gives Remick nuance. He's not evil because he hates Black people. In fact, he fetishizes them. He doesn't want to kill Sammy because he's Black. He wants to consume Sammy's gift, hoping it will reunite him with his own lost heritage. He even tells Sammy,
"Thy kingdom come, thy will be done." The man who stole my father's land forced these words upon us. I hated those men, but the words still bring me comfort.
This passage is a direct allusion to Genesis 1:28. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth.
Now this is a key point. I want y'all to understand why I put these two things together, all right, is a very key point. So I hope you get it.
This biblical decree is often used as justification for conquest and enslavement. It was wielded by the Anglo-Normans during their 1169 invasion of Ireland, and later by the Anglican Church to legitimize seizing Irish land and eradicating native culture through acts like the Kilkenny Statutes. For many viewers, Remek's origin might feel inconsistent. He mentions settlers taking his father's land, which seems to refer to either the Anglo-Norman invasion or the Cromwell settlements, and subsequent penal laws. Yet he also explicitly refers to a time before Christianity, suggesting he's over 1,500 years old, referencing the era of St. Patrick's Christianization, a period not defined by land seizures. However, since Remek shares his memories with those he turns, a phenomenon alluded to by Bert, Joan, Mary, and Stack, it seems to reason his sire also shared their own experiences, and their sire, and their sire. This isn't a plot hole. Remek is not just aware of his people's trauma, he literally contains it. He is the literal and metaphorical embodiment of nearly 2,000 years of Irish generational trauma, a living repository of historical oppression. So when Remek speaks of lamb theft by Anglicans and the time before Christianity, he's reflecting these layered inherited memories, a personal and familial connection to his people's continuous subjugation. This deep-rooted historical burden is reflected in his chosen song, Rocky Road to Dublin. This traditional Irish folk song details the travails of an Irishman setting out to find his fortune, only to be robbed, humiliated, and beaten. The singer finally finds safe haven when he's recognized by other Irishmen. It's explicitly a song about finding kinship and succor with one's own people after facing brutal oppression. Remek's people, however, were taken from him. Like Mary, he exists liminally, neither fully white nor black, and not truly welcomed in either space. Over his long life, he transitioned from being segregated by society as non-white to being segregated by nature as a vampire. Upon arriving in the New World, Remek singularly focuses on building a community free from the oppression of lost culture. To achieve this, he aggressively lays claim to cultural artifacts that are not his own. When Remek's unholy trio introduced themselves at the juke joint, they auditioned with a jarringly enthusiastic and peppy rendition of Pig Poor Robin Clean. While one could dedicate an entire essay to the song choice, its significance here is stark. Pig Poor Robin Clean is a traditional African-American folk song, often interpreted as a predatory tale of a hustler taking everything from a mark. The Getchy Wiley L.V. Thomas version, the version used on the film soundtrack, has layers of sexual innuendo and introduces Cock Robin as a naive John. Regardless of the specific interpretation, Remek's performance is disturbing. If the goal is to convince a community of your trustworthiness, gleefully singing a warning about being a predator is an odd choice. It's as though they understand the words, but not why their demeanor is off-putting.
I have a much uglier word for it, sir. Misappropriation.
Misappropriation is Remek's signature. He siphons cultural aesthetics to fill the void of his own lost heritage. This makes him a unique kind of villain, one guilty of what educator and philosopher Paulo Freire would call lateral violence. It's a devastating example of how members of a co-culture, once themselves oppressed, can assimilate into a dominant culture by joining in on the oppression of others. Historically, Irish Americans, initially deemed non-white, eventually gain acceptance into whiteness by leveraging their European ancestry, and, tragically, by participating in anti-black racism. The ultimate cost of Remek's vampiric fellowship is a flattening of identity. While its coven offers camaraderie, it demands the sacrifice of one's own humanity, be it black, white, biracial, or Asian. This trade-off is always central to vampire lore: eternal youth, power, and hedonism in exchange for one's humanity. In Sinners, this concept gains an even more unsettling dimension. Mary, trapped in a loveless marriage and mourning her mother, is ripe and vulnerable to become a bridge for this offer, and she might be the only one who could perceive a new racial identity as a positive escape, however perverse. But not all havens are created equal. Remek's offer is a seemingly safe, colorblind society, in which the only community entry fee is erasure. This is not freedom. This is merely exchanging one form of predation for another. The minds of the people aren't being freed, they're being colonized. Contrast this with Smoke and Stack's vision of community. However cynical and self-serving the twins' venture might be, the juke joint represents a vibrant celebration of blackness, not its abandonment. This comparison reveals the hollowness of Remic's colorblind vampirism. It premises kinship, yet true kinship is impossible without shared history. For the people of the Delta, their existing bonds are forged by the complex, lived experience of being people of color in America. But this existential void is all that Remic knows. He clings to find comfort in the Lord's Prayer, even as he simultaneously dismisses the words as lies. This is his ultimate tragedy. He has internalized aspects of the very ideology he clings to despise, leading him to perpetuate a new form of the same violence. It makes him a product of his own historical trauma in the most destructive way imaginable.
High John, also known as John the Conqueror, was the trickster son of a Congolese king who was sold into slavery and brought to America to toil in the plantation fields. John fell in love with the devil's daughter Lilith, so the devil offered him a deal, as the devil would do. The devil offered Lilith's hand in marriage if John could plow an entire 60-acre field in the morning and sow it in the afternoon. Lilith conjured a magical axe to help High John accomplish the task. But when the devil went back on his word and tried to kill High John distracted the devil, stole his horse, and escaped back to Africa with Lilith by his side. Lilith and John left their powers in the soil so that the devil could never find them. And to this day, that soil still has the magic of High John to be used by his people.
And a pinch of High John.
All right. Now, don't sell none of this on the way home.
Among Sitter's complex cast, Annie, the region's medicine woman, represents spiritual resistance to white oppression. If Stack is the brains and Smoke is the muscle, Annie is its ancient wisdom, is keeper of ancestral ways in a world constantly trying to erase them. As a practitioner of some amalgamation of Yoruba, Hoodoo, and Gula Geechee, she connects the people of the Delta to their West African roots. We first meet Annie packing a mojo bag with High John, a clear visual of her traditional practice and, of course, something that ties in with the theme of the movie. Unlike Smoke and Stack, who seem to live fully in the secular world of man, Annie views the world spiritually.
Yes.
Her door frame is painted Haint blue, a southern superstition ported over from the Gula Geechee to confuse the Haints and guard against them invading one's home. Annie accepts company scrip as payment, a practice Smoke chastises her for. In Smoke's world, the practical world, real money equals power.
US motherfucking dollars.
And failing to empower herself against the evils of the world is irresponsible in his eyes. Smoke thinks that he can tear down the Master's house using the Master's tools. But Annie sees it far differently. She sees her spells and prayers as something that kept Smoke and Stack alive in Germany and Chicago. Privately, she carries an unimaginable grief. The death of her baby with Smoke, marked by a small memorial outside her remote shack. This loss harkens back to the Yoruba legend of the Abeji, in which the loss of a child is marked by the creation of a wooden figure memorializing them. When Smoke angrily asks why her hoodoo didn't save the baby, she solemnly shakes her head and says she doesn't know. In that way, both the loss and the belief are about power. Annie accepts that feeling of helplessness in the face of loss as sadness. Smoke experiences it as anger and disillusionment. The spirituality, wrapped in pain and defiance, is what Coogler is trying to get across.
This gift can bring healing to their communities, but it also attracts evil.
This voiceover is the film's spiritual thesis, framing music and culture not just as entertainment, but as sacred ancestral power. A power that attracts exploitation. When Smoke comes to recruit her for the juke joint, Annie, ever perceptive, immediately cuts to the bone of his and Stack's intentions, exposing their own moral compromises.
You bought that old sawmill.
Who you and Stack robbed to get enough money for them crackers to sell you a whole meal.
Annie's true role emerges when the vampires are revealed. It is Annie whom everyone turns to, as she alone possesses the knowledge to differentiate between the Haints and the vampires, advising them on how to fight. Her hoodoo practice represents a separated co-cultural communication strategy. It's a fierce, conscious preservation of indigenous African spiritual wisdom, a counter-hegemonic force against both white Christianity and literal vampiric predation. Her ultimate act is one of sacrifice, as it often is for women in folklore. Smoke is forced to drive a stake through her heart before she can turn into a vampire. Annie chooses death over becoming a predator, an act of agency and defiance against the parasitic forces of the film. In the coda, Annie returns in something akin to a dream sequence, welcoming Smoke into the afterlife to meet their child, offering an elusive peace. She transforms from a figure of personal grief and external judgment into an ancestor, a guiding spirit who transcended earthly struggles to offer true healing and liberation from the cycle of sin. The Choctaw get a relatively short amount of screen time here, being the land.
Let's pay attention to this too.
Landkeepers who are hunting for Remick. It is significant that Coogler chose the Choctaw specifically, although it is an easy choice from a historical standpoint. The Choctaw's history is interwoven with the Black, Irish, and white histories of the South, both before and after the war. Like many indigenous tribes, their history is fraught with both oppression and complicity. The Choctaw were one of the first tribes to acquiesce to American hegemony after the formation of the United States of America. Despite this, they were also the first tribe forcibly removed from their homeland and relocated to the Mid-South region, including Mississippi, and what is historically known as the Trail of Tears. That historical tragedy led to the Choctaw's sympathy for the Irish, who across the pond were getting hit with the Great Famine. Despite having few assets themselves and being less than a decade from removal, the Choctaw collected what is the modern-day equivalent of tens of thousands of dollars for the Irish. To this day, there remains a kinship between the Irish people and the Choctaw peoples based on this act of kindness. Other Choctaw relationships are more complex. The Choctaw were arguably one of the most American of the tribes, siding with the colonists during the American Revolution and the War of 1812. Owing to this, they were named one of the 5 civilized tribes by the American government, meaning that they'd taken on a form of republican governance, they adopted Christianity as a religion, they developed modes of capitalism, and, most notably, they engaged in slavery. In fact, many Choctaw sold off their land-tilling equipment before relocation and used the money to purchase more slaves because slaves could haul more and act as surveyors. This means that many black people living in the Delta at the time Sinners takes place were likely direct descendants of those brought to the region as part of the Trail of Tears. During the United States Civil War, the Choctaw and 4 other civilized tribes supported the Confederacy in the hopes that the Confederates would make good on their promise of creating a state specifically for the tribes. Perhaps not coincidentally on that count, Confederate President Jefferson Davis's older brother, Joseph E. Davis, was a plantation owner in the Mississippi Delta. And after the Civil War, the elder Davis sold his plantation to his longtime slave, Benjamin Montgomery. The plantation became a small township named Davis Bend, but it soon fell on hard times thanks to uncertainty in the post-war cotton economy and threats from the local white Mississippians. Montgomery's son would later take Benjamin's ideals and money saved from working at their local general store and found his own township, Mound Bayou. The Confederacy was not successful, though, and the fallout from that was the Choctaw being forced to divest from slavery, although those who chose to stay in Mississippi rather than relocate to the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma were offered U.S. citizenship. What the brief presence of the Choctaw in this film evokes is that history and social relations are complex affairs, where oppressed and oppressor are not mutually exclusive. One would assume that preacher boy Sammy Moore, a pastor's son, would be the last person labeled a sinner. Yet, in Sinners, he embodies the film's central moral conundrum. All of the other characters have made choices about who they are going to be in life, and simply react to the world thrust upon them. Sammy is the only one left who still has to decide how he's going to live in the world. Sammy is the soul of the juke joint. He embodies the ability Annie spoke about in the opening. His music holds the power to unify a fractured community. But as Annie also warns, such power inevitably attracts evil, transforming it into a commodity. Smoke and Stack intend to sell it, Remick seeks to exploit it, Perlene is seduced by it, and Sammy's own father wants to squash it. Smoke, echoing Stack's decision-making for Mary, demands Sammy abandon music for the church. Kruvler's decision to intercut scenes subtly reveals Smoke's fear that Sammy is repeating their own father's tragic path. At the end of the film, we learn that the guitar that Stack gifted Sammy did not belong to Charlie Patton, but Smoke and Stack's own father.
Charlie Patton.
Boy, who told you that? Stack? Lying son of a bitch. That's our daddy guitar.
So Sammy finds himself torn. The church and the vision of a black-owned haven like Mountain Bayou offer the comfort of his people and the rigid structure of the Protestant work ethic that rejected Smoke and Stack. But his Delta Slim informs him before his show-stopping performance.
Blues wasn't forced on us like that religion. No, sir. We brought this with us from home.
Sinners features many characters, each with their own tribulations. But at its heart, it is about Sammy's choice on how to be a black man in a white man's world. He lacks Mary's and Remick's option to pass or enculturate into whiteness. His choice is clear. Either wrap himself in the religious fabric woven by white men, or embrace the freedom and healing offered by the blues.
Witness our ritual, we heal our people, and we be free.
Sammy stands at a true spiritual crossroads. This directly echoes the legend of Robert Johnson, the bluesman who mythically sold his soul to the devil at a Mississippi crossroads for unparalleled musical genius. That real-life crossroads just happens to be a stone's throw from the Clarksdale train station, the exact spot where Stack and Sammy pick up Delta Slim. And it's now the site of one of the most famous blues museums in the South. This is Sammy being given a Faustian bargain, a trade he ultimately refuses to make with either Remick or his father. Both offer essentially the same exchange: give up his artistic freedom for the comfort and power of stability within a white-created system. What often gets missed in this choice is the sheer scope of what hangs in the balance. During that show-stopping cinematic homage to Ernie Barnes' Sugar Shack, the future of black culture itself, the Bootsy Collins, Jimi Hendrix-style guitarists played by Eric Gates, the record-scratching DJs, the Seawalkers, the Jukers, and the Harlem Shakers, depend on the blues being carried forward. If the Remicks and the Jedediahs of the world are successful, there will be no Sammys to sing that legacy, and the future goes away.
I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back like...
It's a cultural grandfather paradox. It can't just be about reliving the past. There must be a future to look forward to. Despite their aggravation and criticism of each other, the characters of sinners who live alongside a white supremacist system find themselves with a false dilemma throughout the film. And in the end, most of them are consumed by it.
No, everybody in this movie is using their advantage to survive in these awful conditions. Everybody.
A Morton's fork is a rhetorical term for a choice where the outcome ultimately leads to the same conclusion, regardless of the option one picks. I said earlier that Stack and Mary's plan to go to the white people to save black culture is the catalyst for the vampire onslaught, but as Ryan Coogler points out, if Remick and his new friends never enter the narrative, the people at the juke joint are still massacred by the KKK. Whether the characters try to assimilate to the dominant culture, offer accommodations, or separate entirely, the roads all lead to the same conclusion: the creeping annihilation of a culture. Smoke died burning the KKK to the ground, Stack and Mary passively assimilated while displaying their culture through their forever bodies. Delta Slim prostrated his dignity for white men in order to enculturate, and then crawled into a bottle to hide after his friend was tortured, mutilated, and lynched. The Chows played both sides until colonialism came for them too. And Annie removed herself completely from white society to serve her community, only to be cannibalized by those closest to her. There is no ally in this film, no white savior, no champion of the little guy who is betraying his privilege because of a belief in some higher moral purpose. There is only the gaping maw of white supremacy that putrefies everything it touches. The only answer then, according to Sinners, is to unapologetically embrace authentic identity in the face of that, regardless of the consequences. And there will be consequences. And in embracing that authenticity, there will be pockets, moments, slivers of pure freedom. And it's important to acknowledge and embrace them where you can. After all, a man standing still on the corner is doing nothing. A man standing still in a raging river is resisting. Stay cool, stay safe, wash your hands, return your shopping carts, make good choices, and I'll see you next time.
Well, now you go see why part 2 ties all this together and what my message is. And all this landed in my hand, and I wasn't even really thinking about it. So, let's get to part 2. Waste no time. You didn't come here to hear me. You came here to see what I put together.
Zinj mean black, Anthropus mean man. He was 750,000 years old, and he had a daddy, and they went back and they dug and they found some more skulls and some more skulls, and they're still unearthing skulls that never show the origin. But as far back as you go, they find you. Wait now. We have Caucasians in this audience. We have Hispanic brothers, sisters, brothers in the audience. We have men of many different hues and colors. The Bible says, from one blood, God created all men from one blood. Blood is the life fluid of some living organism. So from one blood, meaning from the genetic strain of one life, God made all. Look at what the Quran says. He created you from a single being and created your essence from your mate from the same essence. And from these two, he spread many men and women. It started from one, now it's many. And how did you start? You started from sperm mixed with ovum, and when the sperm connected with the ovum, it produced the first cell of life. And from that one cell, now you are billions and billions and billions of cells in this one body. But you started from one. Can you dig it?
Yes, sir.
Excuse my slang. Now, the Quran tells us the color of the first man. First man is called Adam. In the Quran it says Allah created him from black mud and fashioned him into shape. Stop. Since my body is from the earth, if he created the first man from black mud, step up anthropologist, step up historian, step up biologist, step up geneticist, talk to me. If the first man were white, the yellow man couldn't even get here. Because two white people cannot produce anything other than what they are. Talk to me. So, I'm not teaching black supremacy. I'm just teaching actual facts. White people, listen to me good now. You can't produce us. It's a mathematical, genetic impossibility. So if you were the first, we couldn't have got here. So the black man has in himself the whole range of color, because black is not a color. It is the essence from which all color comes.
Before we go any further, I need you to pause and really hear this. Most of what you were taught about who you are, your identity, where you come from, and what you're worth has been carefully filtered, not to empower you, but to control how you see yourself. And once a man forgets who he is, he becomes easy to dominate. We were told our history started in chains, our image is cursed, and God looks nothing like us. But what if that story is incomplete? What if the truth about the origin of man, your origin, was never meant to sit comfortably in white classrooms, history books, or pulpits that refuse to tell the whole story? In this video, you're going to hear words that shake foundations, not because they are hateful, but because they are unapologetically honest. Words that challenge biology, history, religion, and the lie of inferiority that's been placed on the black man for generations. This is not about supremacy. This is about identity, truth, and most importantly, this is about remembering who you are. Listen closely, because once you see it, you can never unseen it.
And has
You heard the words. Once you see it, you can't tell yourself you didn't see it or heard it. Okay? Let's start from that. Logic.
God's divine nature in you. As David the psalmist says, ye are all God's children of the Most High God. Now let's get the Bible and Quran to back this up. In the Bible, the apostle says, how can you love God whom you have never seen and hate your brother whom you see every day? Let's stop a minute. Let's look deeper. What do you mean? How can you love God whom you've never seen and then hate your brother? Wait. Then there's something in your brother that is of God. So when you hurt your brother, you're hurting your father. I'm a father, brothers. I got 9 children, 23 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild. And if I ever see my children fighting, it gives me such pain. If you are God, not big God, but a little God, made, as the Bible says, in the image and the likeness of God, then Elijah Muhammad said, every time I see a black man, I'm looking at God. So when I look at you, I don't have to wait to see the Father. I see the Father in you. So when I see you, I got a duty by you, brother. Go ahead. When I meet you, you say, oh, Farrakhan, I'm real happy to meet you, man. And I always say, it's my honor, brother, to meet you. And you look at me and say, what is this? How he honored to meet me? Because when I meet you, I'm meeting a person that has never been on the earth before, and there will never be one quite like you ever again. So when I see you, I have to treat you like I would honor God. I have to respect each human being. I have to respect you, brother. Even though you don't know who you are, I know. And because I know, my duty is to honor and respect you. Even these little children, they are little babies. But the power of God is in them, and they're going to grow up one day, hopefully, to be mighty men. So you start respecting them when they're in the cradle. You start respecting them when you see the woman forming that child in the womb. You don't wait till it gets here. And that's why no man who's a real man will beat a woman. No man who is a real man will beat a woman. No man who's a real man will disrespect a woman, because it's through woman that we live. Go ahead. If you live to be the age of Methuselah, which is 969 years, you still gonna die. So how do you continue? You continue through a woman. So when she tells you, I love you, when she says, I love you, if she means it from the depth of her heart, she's saying, I want to give life to you. I want to extend your life by my love. So you and she enter into a contractual arrangement that is from divine. And after 9 months, she suffers the pain of death to give birth to you all over again. And so as a man who has a child, if you love God and love yourself, when you see yourself growing again, you got a chance to make that life better than you were made. So when that life comes, it's like a potter's clay. You can shape it, you can mold it, you can make it something. So Jesus said, Reverend Jackson, when the disciples said, Master, when were you hungry and we fed you not? When were you naked and we clothed you not? When were you out of doors and we gave you not shelter? When were you sick and imprisoned and we ministered not unto you? He said, inasmuch as you have not done this unto the least of these my brethren, go ahead, you have not done it also unto me. So the least little brother in here is the brother of Christ. Stop right there. Stop, man. We gotta get through this part. Don't leave me. Who is Christ? Christ is man in his perfectly developed state. Therefore, Christ fully developed is man in whom God dwells. Christ is the express likeness, image of God. Why is Christ so important? Because he allows men to see the realm of possibility. We can be more than the prophets. Don't go around saying I'm the child of God and never grow up to be like your father. Jesus was the only man in the Bible or scripture that had such a unique relationship to God till he referred to God not as Elohim or Yahweh or Allah. He referred to him as his father.
Think about it. Listen. Teach.
And then when the disciples wanted to learn how to pray, they said, Master, could you teach us how to pray? He said, yeah, pray on this wise. Say, not my Father, our Father. Now, if the Father made Jesus so special, what's wrong with you? You mean you're not special? You mean the Father didn't make nothing out of you? You nothing. Your elder brother Jesus is something. You nothing. Muhammad is something. You nothing. Moses is something. You nothing. False. Every one of you are as they are if you submit to the source that they submitted to.
All right, now let's slow down and really talk, because this is where a lot of people get uncomfortable, and truth usually lives right there. You see, we're not just talking about religion here. We're talking about our origin. We're talking about identity. And once you understand where something starts, you understand everything that comes after it. Every major science, faith, and even biology itself keeps pointing back to the same reality, that humanity comes from one source. One life, one beginning, and one bloodline. Not separate creations, not different gods, but one origin that branched out over time. Think about it for a second.
That's exactly what I want you to do. To think about it for a second. Think about these two videos, how they are really, really sewn in together to make this story complete.
You didn't start as a full-grown human. You started as a single cell, one, and from that one cell came trillions more, different functions, different shapes, different roles, but all carrying the same original code, same source. Now apply that same logic to humanity. If life began in one place, in one form, then variation didn't come first. Diversity came later, color came later, shade came later, adaptation came later, and that alone already challenges the lie that blackness is some kind of deviation or curse or afterthought. And here's where it gets really uncomfortable for people who've been taught a certain version of history. If the first human life came from the earth itself, rich, dark, and full of minerals, then the idea that whiteness came first doesn't even make biological sense. This isn't hate. This isn't ego, and this is logic. The black man carries the full genetic range of humanity. That's not an opinion, that's science, which means blackness isn't the absence of something. It's the source of everything. And once you understand that, the next question becomes dangerous to the system. If we didn't come from nothing, if we didn't come from inferiority, then why were we taught to see ourselves that way? That's what we're yet to unpack.
Jesus said, I and my Father are one. See, when you submit to God, brother, He actually comes into you. He travels into you through the Word. And the Word contacts the essence of your nature, which is the same as His nature, and turns on the divine essence of you. And you start growing spiritually just like you grew physically.
Please hit the like button and share.
And therefore, brothers, when you got a gun in your pocket and you go on and shoot a black man, that's like shooting a bit of God. When you watch the life ooze out of your brother, every time you squeeze the trigger, life is oozing out of you, because love can't find a place in you for your brother if you're constantly raping, robbing, destroying your brother. This is your family. We are not just family from the same mother, but we are family from the same God. So you are truly my brother, and I am truly yours. So I make a pact. I will give my life for you, because my life is not more important than yours. You are greater, I am lesser. So I must become your servant. And you must see your people like that. When your brother is down, that's you. Help pick him up. Don't let different colors make you different people. Don't say, well, he got on red, man. He ain't one of the Bloods. He got on blue, man. Yeah. He ain't one of the brothers. He didn't get a right sign. He ain't one of the brothers. When you look in his face and you see the mark of the beast, that's your brother, who has been destroyed like you, and you must never, ever again hurt your brother. When you and your brother have an argument, develop the intelligence to reason with each other and not reach in your pocket. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us, throw away all guns. When we became Muslims, we put all the guns away, threw them away, because Elijah Muhammad knew that when we got in an argument, we would reach for our gun rather than reach for our ability to reason. He forbade us to raise our hand to each other. I remember in the FOI, the fruit men's class, I saw a brother and and the captain saw me doing it. He said, brother. I said, yes, sir. He said, do you think you can whip us all? I said, no, sir. He said, well, the next time you raise your hand to your brother, you'll have to whip us all. And from that day, I never raised my hand to my brother. Never. Not just my brother as a Muslim. This is my brother Christian. I won't ever raise my hand to him. He is safe from my tongue, from my hands. His wife is safe because I know that his wife is sacred to him, she's sacred to me. Therefore, instead of violating his house, I will protect his house. His daughter is sacred to me. And when we become like that, love comes in. When I won't do you wrong, you won't do me wrong, you fall in love with me, I fall in love with you. Then love is greater than the law, because love is the highest expression of law. When I say I love you, and you could drop your wallet with money all in it. That's not a brother. I say, hey, brother, brother, brother. You dropped your wallet here. You say, man, I ain't gonna do that. If that fool dropped that wallet, and I see it, I got it. But we are taught that if your brother has a bowl of soup and you have none, half your bowl belongs to your brother. So if I got money, you don't have to steal. If you got need and I got, here, brother, but I don't want you to lay on me. Right. But I'll help you out as my brother. Now, I would like to conclude this talk, but I don't want anybody to get up, because we're going to say prayer together. But I want to just show you, in conclusion, the meaning of the story of the donkey and the colt, and show you how this amount of men together, I'll show you what we could do right here in Houston. Right. And you'll never be broke and powerless if you have unity. There's an ass tied, untied. White folks got us tied up to them, but they're not using us. Therefore, by the law of non-use, they have forfeited their right to hold us. Listen, Jesus is not a thief. He didn't tell his disciples, go and untie him and bring him to me. When you got a tie on you, that means you belong to somebody else. But the master had come, and he paid a price to redeem them. So he said, no, they're not using you. I've suffered for you. Go untie them. I got need. Bring the ass to me. I'm not speaking vulgar. No. Then Jesus rides into Jerusalem on the ass or the donkey. People saying Hosanna. Do you know, in the history, there has never been, to my knowledge, a leader who calls black men out to a special meeting to talk to black men? Go check the history. Brothers, if this happens in 15 or 20 cities across the country, what do you think they're thinking? See, you are the unlearned, the donkey. Farrakhan is who you came to hear. That means you are the wave or the wind beneath his wings. So when they record this meeting, they're going to say, that Farrakhan, he's getting them black men stirred up. The moment Jesus got on the donkey and rode into Jerusalem, his time was numbered. because they in secret council said he got to die. I'm telling you tonight, they have already decided Farrakhan got to go. Wait. They made their plans. But God made his. You don't have to worry about that.
Now here's where this stops being theoretical and starts hitting home, because if we all come from one source, one life, and one origin, then the way we treat each other isn't just a social issue, it's a spiritual one. And this is where a lot of us get it wrong. Think about it. How can you say you love God, honor God, worship God, but hate your own reflection walking down the street? How do you pray with one breath, then turn around and destroy your brother with the next? That contradiction alone tells us something is broken. If God's essence is in life itself, if that same divine spark exists in every human being, then when you disrespect your brother, you're not just disrespecting a man, you're disrespecting the source that made him. When we harm each other, we're not just spilling blood, we're tearing at something sacred. And let's be honest, this system figured that out a long time ago. That's why we were taught to fear each other. That's why we were trained to see each other as enemies. And the quickest violence in our communities is often aimed inward. Because once you convince people that their brother has no value, they'll destroy themselves and call it normal. But here's the truth they never wanted us to sit with. Every black man you see is not a mistake. He is unrepeatable. There has never been another him in all of human history. And there never will be again. That alone demands respect. And when you truly see that, it changes how you move. You don't reach for the gun so quickly, hate so easily, or devalue life so casually. Because if I see God's nature in you, then my duty is to protect you, not destroy you. This should be your mindset. And that realization, that shift in how we see each other, is exactly what real power starts with.
I don't believe they have a gun big enough to shoot me from here across the street if it doesn't please God. If it pleases God that I die, then it pleases me to die. I don't think so. We got work to do. So here you are, all tied up. I'm one of the master's disciples. I saw you tied. I'm here tonight to loose you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Come on, black man. We got a job to do. I don't care what work you're doing now. You got a bigger job to do for God. And since you said, Lord, if you get me out of trouble this one time, I'll serve you. Now here's the way God wants you to serve him. First of all, brothers, each of us have to decide to clean up our act. This body is the real house of God, not this.
No, not this building.
Not this building.
Not this.
It's a beautiful building. But this building is not the real house of God. This here is greater than this.
That's right.
Because this is the architecture of men. This is the craftsmanship of God. So you must never violate the house of God. You shouldn't eat improper foods unclean foods, clogging up your beautiful system with unclean foods. Some of you drove good cars. I saw them parked all out there. And brothers, you're not going to put cheap gas in that finely engineered engine. You put the highest octane in it because you don't want it pinging and going on, and then you go and sit at McDonald's and feed this magnificent house garbage. It's a great house, brother, but you got to take care of it. Houses need maintenance. You're not maintaining that body. I'm 60. I'll be 61 next month. But brothers, these are my sons, 2 of them. This son can tell you his father at 60, come on, 370 pounds, and still don't know the limit of my strength. Deadlift 405 pounds, just snatch it up off the ground. Squat 405 and still don't know the limit of my power. I'm a young old man. I don't have no big gut. No. What do you look like? Some of you have not seen yourself. Unless you get a mirror. All down over your knees. This is your lifeline. Ask the champ. Look how magnificent he looks when he takes off his clothes. You don't have to age because you've been here long. Go ahead. Ain't none of you in here really old. 70's not old, 80's not old, 90's not old. You just got here, man. What you getting out of here for? Hang in there, brother. But you gotta stay here long enough to learn how to live so you can pass on valuable lessons to your children and your grandchildren. You out of here. Improper foods. I have fasted from 3 days to 40 days. You got to learn how to cleanse your bodies and your minds. I mean, I'm just quick, brother. I can wake up in the middle of the night and teach for hours, never repeating myself. You are greater than I am. You just need to get yourself in order with God. Now, I'm one man, and they find it difficult to handle me. The whole world together finds it difficult to crush one man. You know why? Greater is he that is in me that is in the world. Suppose we let him get into us and we become a united power in God. You don't need a gun anymore. You can do it with this. Come on. When they told me 30,000 people were standing on the outside and they were trying to get screens, I went in my room and I said, "Oh Allah, hold back the rain. Don't rain on the people." And he held it up. You got juice, man. You're God's people. You could run this thing crazy if you just came home to God and came into unity with one another.
So, what made this happen? What made these two stories come together for me? Was it something I thought about? No. It fell in my hand, and I wanted to get it out to you. I was watching Lapeef's show last night, and I was disgusted about it. And the reason I was disgusted about it, because it made me think the man thinks he's smarter than the creator. They was having a discussion last night about two parents versus one parent. To me, that's a silly debate. That's a silly discussion. Why? It's just as simple as you got a bike and you get a flat. You might be able to make it home on just the flat tire and the rim. But if you think you got an easier way and a smoother ride than having two tires inflated, you don't lost your damn mind. See, we have learned to accept things and substitute things because we accept these things. It's not even an even debate because it's a handicap. How are you going to tell God or tell anyone that it's best to have one parent over two parents? It's not even a discussion. And especially when you start the discussion off with a handicap. Well, I have seen two parents ruin their children, but we still think it's better to have two parents. You started off with a negative. You started off with a handicap. And then in your second breath, you say, well, I have seen one parent do very good with a child. And so, you know, it can work. A damn substitute orange juice in the store can work too, but it ain't gonna be better than a damn squeezed orange you get off a tree. So why is we so stuck on these secondary conversations about substitute? If you want to have that discussion about a single parent, just have that discussion about a single parent where you are trying to enhance that single parent to say, look here, you're going to have dual roles in raising this child, boy or girl. So if you got a girl and you're a father, you need to have your daughter around positive sisters, aunts, friends, whoever. If you're going to have that discussion, why not have that discussion and to enhance or to make better something you have substitute? Because if God said it took two people to make it, then it takes two people to raise it, and that's going to be the balance. And so when you don't have that balance, you have to use the community, or you have to use what we always say, the older people say, village. But that's a substitute. We can't have that conversation with two parents. If we go try to improve on the two parents, let's just have that conversation. You can do better. Two parent. You can raise this child where this child have balance. You have to become and do as you want your child to do, because your child will get its influence from you. So why are you having these silly ass discussions, Lapeef? Why are we having these discussions like it really means something. If we gonna help the one parent, let's have that discussion. Let's don't try to put that against the two parent. You're driving a wedge when you don't know how to. If you want the two parents to be better, let's have that discussion. You don't have to try to wedge the single parent with the two parents. We already know God don't put that into the blueprint. That's a natural course of things. This is not a game that you play handicap like you play golf. Let's stop having these silly discussions trying to sound smart while we're having discussions we shouldn't even be having. It's a waste of time. And that's something you won't never be able to get back. It's time. Why not build on something that you're liking in and stick with that? And stop trying to put one thing against another, because everything shows. I mean, you can do the numbers. Let's look at the prison system. That small sample size and see how many people in prison, one parent versus two parent. Let you tell it, you will say, well, you know, there's some people in jail that got two parents. Well, that don't mean nothing. Let's talk about the majority of them in there came from single parent. If you want to fix a problem, we got to stop making wedges when we against two things when we don't have to. It's a damn shame that we do this thing, because I think we do these things because we act like spoils of war. And spoils of war is just like prisoners. They don't fight against the warden. They don't fight against the guard. Not in the overall scheme of things. They fight against each other all the time. Like, you really go win something fighting in prison, you still caged up. Matter of fact, you will be put in somewhere you can't have no contact with human. Why do we approach problems like children, men and women, like we don't understand logic just to have a conversation? Let's don't have just to have conversation. Let's have how we fix where people are. If you're going to have the single conversation again, have the conversation as a single parent, and don't try to put it against two-parent homes. I raised my daughter. By the time she was 11 years old, she started walking like me. I had to hair her up and take her back to her mother. I had to hair her up. You go ask a silly question. Can a father introduce a feminine position in your female child? How in the hell are we even having these type of conversations? Can a woman produce masculinity in a male child? Won't you just ask the real stupid question? Can a man have a baby by himself? Or can a woman have a baby by herself? When we just start asking just real stupid questions, when are we going to get, and you brothers and sisters are much more educated than I probably will ever be. But when it comes down to superior wisdom, you can't even walk in the front door with me. I don't give a damn about your booster club, your peanut gallery, who goes to say yes to everything that you say. Because in the end of the day, I don't care if everybody on earth say I'm wrong, as long as I follow the blueprint of the creator, I'm going to win. So if you go have intellectual conversations, just have them. And I think that's enough said. I don't think I can say anything else. It's surprising me. A lot of people go find out about me. I'm going to stop spending time with your goofy ass conversation. Conversation been done, overdone, burnt. It's time for y'all to start thinking on a God mind. Start looking at the world the way you want it to be versus the way it is. Stop trying to be like news. Everything got to be negative. Oh, you know, I don't get to make that much money if I don't talk about negative. I don't have some kind of conflict. I can't get the super chat. Won't nobody come on. You know, I don't give a damn. I don't think I ever had more than 15 people at any live broadcast I ever did. But why? I don't give a damn. Because my message is getting to the people that need to be, not a bunch of people in the congregation who's going to cuss everybody out in the parking lot because they ain't moving their car fast enough to get to the football game. That's the kind of bullshit that y'all have been doing for the last 15 years. And I'm tired of the damn conversation because, to me, people who are educated, who can speak and have a great vernacular, grammar, who have had double the education than anybody from the silent generation or the boomer generation, but y'all ain't dishing out nothing but chaotic situation. Y'all have tools to y'all exposure that we never had. And this is the best solution y'all can come up with. And I'm talking about all these places. Some of these places are set up to be nothing but shows that make you laugh. I'm not talking about them. Y'all got to understand that you have been put in front of a system that don't respect you unless you are an entertainer or sports figure. I seen the CIA papers. I seen the FBI papers. Y'all have never read them. That's why they always flashing entertainers and sport figures in front of you. They don't respect them. They just use them to keep you in control. Hell, we can tell money ain't our problem, because when them fools get money, they don't do nothing but represent the same thing the white man represent. A bunch of foolishness. Not all, but majority. We can do better, including me, you. We all can do better. But if we keep having these elementary conversations, how are we going to get into a higher mind? And we talking, I'm going to be serious. We talking like we riding on a school bus in junior high school. We got all this education. We got this good fat bank account. But we're talking like high school students. The real problem, you spiritless. You don't have no experience. You're always talking about I got a personal experience with God. I wonder what God you got a personal experience with. Because in a lot of places, the devil is a God too. Well, only thing I say, we can do better. And if you want to do better, only thing you have to do, change your mind. And you want to know when you know you're doing better? It's when you have better outcome. Your results is going to tell you what you're doing. Point one.
I've been watching the storm, I've been feeling the weight of the world on our doorstep, of the hands of fate. And I'm standing here ready to shoulder the load, to be the compass that points us down this open road. I'm asking for the wheel, I'm asking for your hand, to let me be the one who takes the final stand. So give me the lead, let me be your cover, more than just a partner, more than just a lover. I'm asking you to trust the vision that I see, to yield your heart and find your rest in me. Just follow my steps, let your worries subside, and let me be the strength that's standing by your side.
I hear the words you're saying, they sound steady and deep, but there's a promise in your eyes you haven't quite kept. You wanna be the head, you wanna be the guide, but there's a missing piece you're trying to hide. You're asking me to bow to the man that you are, but you're steering this ship by a fading star. How can I follow where you're gonna go when you're running a race that you don't even know? You're asking for a crown you haven't earned yet, demanding a tribute while you're deep in debt. How can you ask me to bend my knee to you when you won't bow your head to the one who is true?
Look, I was talking about a throne, but I forgot about the floor. Tryna lock the windows while I left the open door. I wanted all the yes, but I wasn't giving God the amen. Building up my pride, trying to be the greatest of the men. But you called it out, you saw the cracks inside the frame. How can I leave the house if I'm running from the name? I'm putting down the crown, I'm picking up the cross, 'cause leading without him is just leading us to loss.
Yeah, we were fighting for the wheel while the car was standing still.
Now we're moving on His grace and we're moving in His will. So we'll both take a knee, we'll both let it go. There's a higher authority we both need to know. I'll submit to the love that you show from above, and I'll lead by the grace of the Father's own love. No more me or you standing first in the line. We're both coming home to a design that's divine.
Yeah, we gotta get it right.
Yeah.
Starting with him tonight.
Night.
No more tricks, no more pride. Just the truth on our side.
Y'all can tell me something. I've been doing this ever since 2010. I've never asked you for a dime, super chat. I won't even monetize my channel. Been giving you all this information. Health, spirituality. Landed in your hand. Who do you trust? Who have you been trusting? That's what I want to know. Who have you been trusting? I got my last song I want to play for you. I want y'all to listen to the words because too many people don't give their life and sacrifice. And in the future, there will still be people who give their life and sacrifice for you, and you take it for granted.
This goes out to my brother OG. G, speed the crossing. Started in the dust of a distant sun. Before the change, before the run.
The drums were calling across the deep. A promise that a soul was meant to keep.
But the ocean grew wide and the sky turned gray. They took the names, but not the way. We hum the songs in the dark of the night, turning the sorrow into the light. It's the rhythm of the ages, the blood in the soil, the beauty born out of the struggle and toil. From the cotton fields to the stars above, a history written in a resilient love. Oh, we're still standing, we're still here, echoing loud so the world can hear. I walked the miles in the Birmingham rain. Ooh, I felt the fire, I felt the pain, but I saw a future in a young man's eyes, where the truth was louder than the silver lies. I was there on the bus, there on the bus, there on the stage, there on the stage. We were turning the leaf on the heavy page, from the great migration to the city lights. Oh, we claimed our place and we claimed our rights. How this do works. Oh, the male voice represents the grounding force, the bass and the foundational strength, the spirit, the soaring hope and emotional love. The jewel isn't a fight, it's a build up as the song progresses. They should start overlapping their lines. Ad-libbing over each other to show how intertwined this history is. Would you like me to write a bridge where the voices battle or harmonize even more intensely? Or should we focus on a specific era for verse 3?
Peace, love, happiness, and always strive for the truth.